Welcome. This video will cover lower of cost or market, or LCM for short. This topic is especially easy, but I'll go over it just for thoroughness. Lower of cost or market is based on a reporting principle in accounting called conservatism. You may also hear it called the doctrine of prudence. All conservatism means is, when in doubt, choose the course of action least likely to overstate assets. This notion has sometimes been misapplied as intentionally understate assets. That's certainly not the case. All it means is when you have two or more options in how you report something on your financials, in this case, merchandise inventory, choose whichever option is least likely to overstate its value. The idea is, if you turn out to be wrong, which update would be easier to tell? Generally, it's easier to say to your investors or your boss, "I'm very sorry, I made a mistake. We actually made more money last year than I told you," as opposed to saying, "I'm sorry, but we made less money." Curious how benevolently forgiving people can be when hearing that former statement. Remember the cost principle I discussed in my first video. We record our assets at their costs because cost is the most objective amount to use. When we bought our merchandise inventory, we recorded it at the final net cost after discounts, taxes, shipping and handling, and so forth. That acquisition cost is what will be reported in the financials. In other words, that's the cost element in lower of cost or market. Your textbook will likely give a needlessly complex definition of market or market price. I'd tell you to think of market price as, for how much can we sell our inventory? Sometimes market price may be referred to as net realizable value, or NRV. Selling inventory can also involve further reductions of the sales price in the forms of things like discounts and sales commissions. So we'll have to reduce the price by those amounts. Think of market price or net realizable value as how much revenue will come in when our inventory is sold. So we have two potential values for our merchandise inventory. The cost, which is the amount currently recorded on the books, and the market value, for which we are anticipating selling it. Ideally, we can sell our inventory for more than it cost us. That's how we make a profit. However, if that market price drops below the cost, we need to write down our merchandise inventory to that new market value on our books. Again, in accordance with the doctrine of prudence, we're trying to avoid overstating the value of our asset. Why might a product's market price drop down below its cost? Generally, there are two types of causes for such a decline: physical factors and market conditions. Physical factors are best explained as damage or deterioration to the product. For example, a water line breaks in a furniture store, causing cosmetic damage to some of its furniture inventory. Those tables or chairs can still be sold because they still work just fine, but consumers will generally be unwilling to pay the original retail price for an end table that has a lot of water stains about it. Dealing with perishables at a supermarket is another good example. For instance, once ground beef or steak is still unsold as of its sell-by date, the price will be marked down to encourage someone to buy it, so the store brings in at least a little revenue as opposed to nothing by having to throw it in the garbage. Regarding market conditions, Obsolescence is usually the primary driver of price drops. For example, imagine consumer tastes change so that certain styles of clothing are no longer fashionable. Clothing retailers will have to mark down the price to move that inventory. In consumer electronics, a new product may be developed that lessens the value of a substitute good. There was a time when portable CD players were how people took their music with them to the gym or on trips. Then, MP3 players came out in the early 2000s, which allowed people not to have to swap out CDs every time they wanted to listen to a song from a different album. Then the iPhone kicked off the smartphone era in 2007, which did everything MP3 players could, plus browse the internet, play video, run video games, and so forth. Every time the newer, better product came out, the previous product line had to have its price reduced to be worth selling. In 1994, I was in 7th grade, and I went to school where getting to school and going home entailed almost an hour-long bus ride. So that Christmas, my main gift was a CD player that cost my parents about $90. Adjusted for inflation, that was like paying $165 in 2021. 2 technology generations removed, a CD player will now cost you about $30. From the perspective of the customer, this isn't so bad. Consider Street Surfer Skate Shop, which carries a merchandise inventory of various skateboards, namely double kicktail skateboards, longboards, cruiser skateboards, and surf skateboards. We see the quantity of each board in stock, along with the individual unit's cost and retail sales price. We also see the total cost and total retail sales price in the last 2 columns. These items are calculated by multiplying the quantity per unit by the cost or sales price. The total market value represents how much revenue would be earned if the shop sold every unit of that particular item of inventory. The total cost represents the value in each product's merchandise inventory ledger account. We record our assets at the final net cost of acquisition. So if we were to look at the ledger right now, we'd see debit balance of $5,200, $13,855, $3,330, and $10,725. Pretend that the new models of double-end skateboards and cruisers cause the market price of the current inventory to drop to $45 and $95. After this change, we notice that the cost is no longer lower than the market value for each product. Specifically, the total market values for our double-end skateboards and our cruiser boards are now less than their respective costs. We record merchandise inventory at the lower of cost or market. So we need to write down skateboards and cruisers to $4,500 and $2,850. To do so, we need to credit those merchandise accounts for $700 and $480 respectively. Now, where does that $1,180 debit go? The answer likely varies based upon your instructor or textbook, but I have my students put it to cost of goods sold. Again, use whatever account your instructor specifies. Of course, the balances for longboards and surf skateboards remain at their original costs. Please be aware that we only write down inventory when the market value drops below the cost. As a separate scenario, imagine that the sales price of our double-end skateboards and longboards had to be reduced to $70 and $205 respectively. The 100 skateboards multiplied by $70 would give a new total market value of $7,000. And the 85 longboards multiplied by $205 would come out to $17,425. Under this scenario, we would do nothing. Even though the market price has declined for these two items, it is still higher than their costs on the books. So we'd leave everything at cost. That concludes this video on lower of cost or market. My next video will be the last one on merchandise inventory for financial accounting, in which I'll cover estimating ending inventory. That topic can sometimes be challenging, so please return for that video. As usual, thank you very much for watching. If you find my videos helpful and you want to return the favor, you can leave a thumbs up or a question or a comment below. If you really want to help, consider subscribing to my channel. Not forever, just for as long as you're taking your accounting course or courses. Finally, please share my videos with your fellow classmates and even your instructor. I'd like my videos to help as many students as possible, and I wouldn't mind getting some input from contemporaries. Thank you once again, and I'll see you in the next one.